Namaskar students, myself Law Ojha from DM School, Bhubaneswar. Students, as we know, the activities for improving crop yields can be classified as crop variety improvement, crop production improvement, and crop protection improvement. In the previous session, we have already discussed about crop variety improvement. In this present session, we will discuss about crop production improvement and crop protection improvement. Let's say crop production improvement. It includes nutrient management, irrigation, and cropping patterns. Nutrient management means giving or enriching the soil with various nutrients required for the proper growth of the crop. Irrigation means supplying the water to the crop. And cropping patterns, there are various cropping patterns, and we will discuss about that later on. Now, before that, we have to see the scenario of farming in India. It varies. It varies a lot from very small farm to very large farm, and also in terms of land, money, and technology. Some farmers use very small land, whereas some farmers do farming in huge land. Some farmers utilize very small money, whereas some farmers use huge money. And similarly, some farmers use technologies of traditional quality, whereas some farmers use modern technologies. Based on that, levels of production practices in India can be classified as no cost production, low cost production, and high cost production. Now, see one by one. First one was nutrient management. The different sources of nutrients are air, water, and soil. From the air, crops get carbon and oxygen. From the water, they get hydrogen and oxygen. And from the soil, they get various nutrients. Some of them require in large quantities, whereas some of them require in less quantity. The nutrients that require in large quantities are called macronutrients, whereas the nutrients that require in small quantities, they are called micronutrients. Examples of macronutrients are nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium, and sulfur. And the examples of micronutrients are iron, manganese, zinc, copper, etc. To enrich the soil with these nutrients, we require manure and fertilizers. Now, manure. As we know, manure is obtained from the excreta of animals, decomposition of excreta of animals and plant wastes, and they are rich in organic matters. They also increase the water holding capacity of the soil and increases the number of friendly microbes. That means they are helpful for the soil and they increases the quality of the soil. There are different types of manure. Main of them are two types. First one is compost and vermicompost, and second one is green manure. What is compost? Compost is obtained from the decomposition of waste materials, and as I said earlier, it is rich in organic matter. And compost prepared by using earthworm or dead worm are called vermicompost. Now, green manure. Some plants like hemp, guar are grown in the soil before the actual sowing of the crop, and after that they are plowed to mulch in the soil. What happens? They help in enriching the soil with nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus, and they are called green manure. Now, next one is fertilizers. As you read in class 8, fertilizers are chemical substances. They are commercially produced plant nutrients, and they are rich in only specific nutrients like nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Examples of fertilizers are urea, superphosphate, NPK, etc. And they should be applied very carefully. Otherwise, they may harm the crop. And also, continuous use of fertilizers can destroy the soil fertility. Therefore, for sustainable development, we should do organic farming, and it also include utilization of manure. Now you can easily compare between manure and fertilizers and which one is good for sustainable practices. For sustainable practices, we should encourage organic farming, and there is minimal or no use of chemicals and maximum use of organic manures like biofertilizers and biopesticides, and also healthy cropping patterns. Healthy cropping patterns are intercropping, crop rotation, mixed cropping. About that we'll study later on. Now next one is irrigation. As we know, most of the agriculture in India is rain fed, but monsoon is uncertain. Poor monsoon can ruin or destroy the crop. Therefore, to ensure crop gets water at the right time, we need irrigation. And sources of irrigation in India are wells, canals, river lift system, tanks, and one more thing, rainwater harvesting. And for encouraging sustainable practices, we must adopt rainwater harvesting. Now next, as I said earlier, there are different cropping patterns, and major of them are mixed cropping, intercropping, and crop rotation. We will study all of these three one by one. First one is mixed cropping. It is growing two or more crops. It is growing two or more crops simultaneously on the same piece of land. And in this type of cropping, seeds are mixed up before sowing. And this reduces the chance of crop failure. That means it is a kind of insurance. For example, if one crop is ruined or destroyed, other will survive, and farmer will get less harm or less loss. Examples of this type of cropping are wheat plus gram. That means wheat and gram are grown in same field. Another example, wheat and mustard are grown in same field. Now you can see the picture of mixed cropping. This one is. As you can see, there are two types of crops here, and they are grown. There is no pattern. There is no definite pattern. Next one is intercropping. In intercropping, it is growing two or more crops simultaneously on the same field in definite pattern. Here there is difference. Here crops are grown in definite patterns, and crops are selected such that their nutritional requirements are different, so that there is maximum use of nutrients of the soil, and seeds are not mixed. Seeds are not mixed before sowing. Examples, soybean and maize. As we know, soybean is a leguminous plant, and root nodules of this plant contains nitrogen fixing bacteria, and these supply nitrogen to soybean as well as maize. Now you can better understand with the help of example picture. Now here see the image of intercropping. You can easily see there are two different patterns. Two crops are grown in different definite patterns. What is the advantage? Advantage is if one type of crop is infected with pest, other will not affected, because most of the pests and insects are crop specific. And another advantage is all maximum nutrients of the soil is utilized, as these crops have different nutritional requirements. Next, third one is crop rotation. It is growing different crop alternatively on a piece of land. For example, in one season, wheat is grown, in the next season, soybean or some gram is grown. It helps in replenishment of the soil with nutrients. For example, growing wheat and leguminous plant alternatively. How it is advantage? Wheat, as we know, when we grow wheat, it takes some nutrients and nitrogen also, and after that, soil will be deficient to nitrogen. In the next season, when some pulses plant or leguminous plant are grown, they enrich the soil with nitrogen, and again that soil will be rich in nitrogen. Now next one is crop protection management. It includes weed control, disease control, pest control, and storage of grains. We will see them one by one. First one is weed control. We can do weed control by various methods. First one is picking weeds manually. That means we can remove the weeds manually, either with some instrument or with hand. Second, spraying weedicides or herbicides in the field. Third one is using insects that feed on particular weeds. And last one is taking preventive measures. That means seedbed preparation, timely sowing of crops, intercropping, and crop rotation. That means healthy cropping patterns to take the preventive measures. Now, can you say which of them is suitable for sustainable development? Let us see one by one. Picking weeds manually. Yes, it is eco-friendly or bio-friendly because it does not cause any harm to the environment. Second, spraying weedicides or herbicide. Since weedicides and herbicides are harmful for the soil, therefore it should be used very limited quantity. Third one is using insects that feed on particular weeds. Yes, it is also bio-friendly. That means it helps in sustainable development or sustainable practices. And last one is preventive measures. As we know, prevention is better than cure, and therefore last one is definitely helpful for the sustainable development. That means except the second one, we can use three methods to control weed as sustainable practices. Now here is video of removing weeds. You can see it. Namaste students. Today we have to know how remove the weeds manually. As you know, weeds are unwanted plants and they may take the major nutrients from the soil, and due to this reason the major crop cannot grow properly. Therefore they must be removed. Now we'll see how we can remove the weeds manually. Please come closer. This is weed and this is unwanted plant. It must be removed. While removing the weed, you hold it from the base. Otherwise, the plants may break and roots will be inside the soil. Like this. Hold it and pull it. When you pull it, you will see that some soil remain attached to the weed. We must remove it because this soil is very important and it contains useful nutrients for the plant to grow. How to remove it? Give some jerk. You can also put this in water so that it is removed, and then now you can throw this weed. You can also use this weed at boundaries so that it can hold soil and prevent the soil erosion. Now we can look for some more weeds. Again, look this weed. Again, hold it from the base, remove it, and throw it. We can also use some instrument. See, this is called khurpi. How to use this khurpi? Hold the weed and do it carefully, otherwise it may hurt your hand. See how it is removed. You can use it in your garden. One more instrument, this is a spade. You can also use this spade to remove the weeds. And while removing, dig the soil, otherwise again the roots will remain inside the soil. Dig some soil like this. Okay, this is, I think, sufficient. Then this is the weeds. Again, see, soil is attached to the weeds. To give some jerk, the soil will be removed, and then pick the weeds and throw it outside. Thank you. Now, next one is disease control. Various pathogens that affect the crops are bacteria, fungi, and viruses, and they can be controlled by spraying chemicals on crop plants and treating the seeds and soil with chemicals. But again, these chemicals are harmful for the crops as well as soil. Therefore, they should be used very carefully. Next one is pest control. Pests attack the plants in three different ways. They cut the root, stem, and leaves. Secondly, they suck the cell sap from the various parts of the plant. And third, they bore into the stem and fruits and deteriorate the quality of fruits and crop. And they can be controlled by pesticides. But for sustainable practices, for sustainable development, we should encourage biopesticides. Now, storage of grains. As we know, every year a large quantity of grains are lost due to various factors, mainly biotic factors and abiotic factors. Biotic factors include insects, rodents, fungi, mites, and bacteria. Abiotic factors include their inappropriate moisture and temperature, and these factors cause degradation in quality of the crop, loss in weight, poor germinability, and discoloration of produce. Preventive measures, that means they can be controlled by proper treatment of the granaries so that they will free from germs and also from the rodents. And second one is systematic management of warehouses. Now, we can conclude from this session that requirements of nutrients are necessary for the proper growth of the crop plants, and we should encourage these sustainable practices. We should encourage biofertilizers for the better environment. Second, we can enrich the soil by using manure and fertilizers, and organic farming should be encouraged for sustainable practices. Various methods of irrigation are wells, rivers, canals, but for sustainable practices, we should encourage rainwater harvesting. Next one is, we also discussed about healthy cropping patterns, that is mixed cropping, intercropping, and crop rotation, and how they helpful in preventing the diseases and maximum utilization of the nutrients. And at last, we discussed about crop protection management. That means weed control, disease control, pest control, and different ways of storage of grains. Now there is some practice questions. Let us try to solve them. Here there is a question and three options are there. You should have to tell which one is correct and why. Question is, which of the following conditions will give the most benefits to the farmer and why? Option A is farmers use high quality seeds, do not adopt irrigation or use fertilizers. Second option is farmers use ordinary seeds, adopt irrigation and use fertilizers. And third option is farmers use quality seeds, adopt irrigation, use fertilizers and use crop protection measure. Now it is clear that option C is correct. Why? Because farmers are using quality seeds. That means from the quality seeds they will get the plant of desirable quality. They are also adopting irrigation. That means the plant or crops will get sufficient water to grow. They also use fertilizers and manure so that plants or crops get different nutrients that is required for the proper growth of the plant or crops. And they are also using crop protection measures. That means plants or crops will remain free from various diseases. Therefore, option C will be the correct answer. Question number 2. What are the desirable agronomic characteristics for crop improvement? Now, as I said, you can recall from the previous session that there are two types of crops. One is for animals, second is for human beings. And the animal crop is called fodder. And they should have maximum branching so that they fulfill the demand of the cattle. But for the human being, the size of crop should be dwarf so that the crop will get minimum nutrients and maximum nutrients goes to the grains or fruits. Question number 3. Compare the use of manure and fertilizers in maintaining soil fertility. Very clear. We have mentioned and we have discussed in the previous session also and this session also. Manures are good for the soil. They are biofriendly. They are rich in humus. They have good water holding capacity. Whereas fertilizers have only fixed nutrients and overuse of fertilizers may damage the crop. Also, they will deteriorate the quality of soil. Question 4. Why should preventive measures and biological control methods be preferred for protecting crops? We discussed it also. As we know, prevention is better than cure and preventive measures require less money and it is very easy to control at early stage when there is infection and therefore it is easy for the management. Question 5. What are the advantages of intercropping and crop rotation? You can do it. The advantages of intercropping: there is maximum utilization of nutrients and also the plants get less affected by the pests and insects. In crop rotation, there is utilization of the nutrients. For example, as we discussed earlier, leguminous plants, the roots of leguminous plants contain nitrogen fixing bacteria and they enrich the soil, and in the next session When we grow wheat crop, that nitrogen is utilized by the wheat crop. Now next, animal husbandry. About this we will discuss in next session. Thank you.